Hey, what is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Adrian here, and as you see from the title, this is episode number 5, and we're going to be talking about vintage clothing. And one of my favorite categories to sell in, and how I got started on eBay, was selling retro video games. Nintendo 64s, PS2s, PS1s. All that's good stuff. And now I'm moving into vintage clothing. I sell any kind of clothing really that I can make good profit on, but I love picking up vintage clothing, vintage hats, jackets, shirts. So I'm gonna show you guys some tips and tricks on what to look for and how to tell it's vintage, and what to look at and what to look for, and give you guys some tips on that. And if you guys are enjoying the series, please drop a like and leave a comment on how you think I'm doing, and if there's anything that I can improve on, or anything like that. So I'm gonna start maybe double uploading. I might start vlogging and showing you guys my thrift hauls and doing some other kind of videos, and then still do this series as well. So I want to start double uploading, so leave a like if that's something that you'll be interested in. And I'm gonna leave my Instagram and my Facebook, so if you don't got Instagram or Facebook, you could always comment on this video, but I'm gonna leave my Facebook and Instagram down in the description below. So if you guys want to follow me on there or add me on there, feel free to do so. And yeah, so let's get right into the video. So the first item that I'm going to show you guys, I love picking these up. They're vintage snapback hats. These do pretty well for me. This one I just picked up today. This is a vintage San Francisco Giants pinstripe starter snapback. And how I could tell it's vintage is just the tag and starter is, they make a lot of vintage hats, back in the day, and you could kind of just get a feel for the material and pretty much the brand. Look at the tag, and always look your stuff up. So this hat right here, I paid $2 for, $2.40 for it, and I should get around probably 20 to 30 on a high end for this hat. So vintage hat. And I'm gonna show you guys another one that I picked up recently. This is a brand new with tags, San Francisco Proline Reebok snapback. This is from the 90s as well. And yeah, I like to pick these hats up. I usually pick them up pretty cheap. Like I got all these hats like under $3. I think I paid like up for this one. I think I paid $4 for this one just because it was brand new. But usually I spend around $2 to $3, sometimes $4, like if it's brand new. And usually get around 20 to 25, sometimes even 30 plus for them. So yeah, vintage hats. Another item that I like picking up is vintage crew neck sweaters. These are very popular right now. Probably not as much right now because it is gonna start getting hot. So this is a vintage 1989 San Francisco 49ers crew neck. And when you could tell, if you're having a problem, knowing if it's vintage or not, most of the time, not all the time, but there usually will be a date, and it's not going to show, of course. But usually there'll be a date like on the bottom of the graphic, like right here, like on shirts or sweaters. So like on this one, you can't really see, but it says 1988. So yeah, look for a date on it, and it'll tell you. And if not, always look it up. But usually there's a date or it's single stitch, and I'll show you guys an example on single stitch t-shirts right here. This is a single stitch Armani Exchange shirt. This is from the 90s, and this is what I mean by single stitch. It's probably going to be a little hard to see, but there's basically just one stitch down. There's not two. Like if you go look at your shirts, usually there's two stitches and not one. So this is one stitch, and I'll show you guys an example. I brought this down from my inventory. See how there's two stitches? So if it's single stitch, it'll just be one stitch. So that's how you can usually tell it's vintage. Not everything that's single stitch is vintage, but for the most part, it usually is. But always, research, and then as you get more experience, you'll kind of know, like just by the way it feels, the tag, single stitch. Usually there's a year on it, so always look at it, and that's how you can tell if it's older or not. Another one category that's very hot right now and to be on the lookout for is vintage Western shirts. So this is like the top dog in Western. It's Wrangler. If you guys don't already know, Wrangler. And this is I think from the late 80s, maybe early 90s, but I'm thinking more 80s just because the colors. But the more, just like with anything, whether it's hats, it's a t-shirt, or button-ups like this, the more crazier, the more bright, the more crazy graphic on it, the crazier the design, usually the more money you get. Like something like this, I think I have this on eBay for like 35 bucks, and it should sell no less than 30. So these are really good to get to. You know, keep an eye out for vintage Western shirts. So the last item that I'm going to show you guys is vintage toys. This is another item to look out for. Vintage toys do very well for me. This is a vintage Hulk, and I saw one comp on eBay. It was going for like 80 bucks, so I put mine up for 55 with free shipping. Has the fabric shorts, kind of just, there's no year on it. That's another thing with toys. Usually there's a year on like the bottom of the foot or like on the back in small print. But I could kind of just from experience, I could tell this is an older one. Has the fabric pants, and you can kind of just, I could kind of just get a like feel for it that it is, you know, vintage. And then I found a comp too. So, and then here's like a vintage Ghost Rider with the leather suit. You could take it off and stuff like that. This one I already have a watcher on it. This one's going for about 25 or 27, something like that. So yeah, vintage toys. So yeah, there's a couple of vintage items that I like to sell. You know, vintage t-shirts, vintage hats, vintage toys, vintage jackets, crew necks, and there's so much more vintage stuff to get into. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, you know, drop them down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys all have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.